What's going on, peoples? If you in, drop a comment in the chat for your boy. Let me know you in here with me. If you're ready to learn about the great cons, drop a one in the chat for me. Hope y'all doing all right today. Friday, time for another history lesson. Let me see if we can pull up something. Something special for this here. Get us a little song to kick us off. Something we might not have heard before. Yeah, I'm taking y'all to the step. Before there was Shaka Khan, there was Genghis Khan. Before there was Shah Khan, there was Kublai Khan. If you a producer, you might need to sample this. Armand, what's good, brother? Appreciate you tapping in. All right. I don't know what he got going on. Today we are learning about the great Genghis Khan and the grandson, Kublai Khan. Let me know if y'all know anything about the two. Y'all gotta keep me on my toes. Y'all know? So jumping right into it. Let's start with Genghis. Early birth. They say my dog was born with a blood clot in his hand. And at the time, that was a sign of power, right? Like, you're going to be a great leader. His father was born of the Borjigin clan, I want to say it is. My pronunciations might be off. I don't speak Mongolian. But his father was born of the Borjigin clan, so Genghis, rightfully so, born into that, right? His father was a very respected leader, but here's where things get interesting. He stole, like, and this time, I guess this is just how things went. His father rode to a rival tribe. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Merkits, but he rode to a rival tribe and he stole who would become his wife, right? They go to war, of course, yada yada. He raised the camp and he steals his wife. Has Genghis, and a few other kids. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Genghis has 3 blood, like same mother, same father, and then 2 half brothers, right? Two half siblings. Around the age of, I want to say about 9 years old, and it might have been a little later. I think it was a little later. It might be 12, because let me say this first. I think it was later because by this time I believe his father had died. So his father was on an expedition at one point, and he goes to a tribe, and he's basically looking for shelter for the moment, for the night kind of thing, and they poison him. He thought that he was just being fed, like, treated well for his stay, and they poisoned him. It was a rival tribe called the Tartars, and when he was poisoned. I want to say he made it back home, like just in time to die, kind of thing. But when he dies, essentially, the family was cast out from the Borjigin clan. So his mother now having to, all right, so keep in mind this, during this time, several wives, right? So she was one of at least two. The other wife, when um Yesagi, that's Genghis Khan's father, and Genghis was born Temujin. Like I say, my pronunciations might be off, but I'm giving y'all the close enough, right? So Temujin's father, Yesagi, he dies, and one of his wives run off, abandons her kids, leaves them with Genghis and his mother, right? Genghis' mom takes him in, she's taking care of him, but these kids is like fucked up in a sense because they don't appreciate it. They bullying or trying to. They trying to bully Genghis, right? So, like I say, around the age of maybe 12, I think it was at this point that his father had died. Um, one of the brothers, he had Genghis was fishing in the river with a bow and arrow, and when he caught a fish, one of the brothers comes and like takes it from him. So when he takes it, Genghis doesn't even hold. He don't even hesitate. Bruh kills him with a bow and arrow. Like he shoots him dead. Like yeah, takes his fish back, goes home, and he eating good. He ain't even thinking about it. That was like his first sign of a this nigga might be ruthless, right? But the thing about Genghis that I think is misconstrued, and we're gonna see this throughout this history lesson today, is that Genghis Khan was a man of many emotions. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, like I say, by this point, the father's dead, mother's taking care of his other wife's kids. Genghis is trying to grow up. They've been outcast into into abandonment, basically, right? Genghis was promised a wife at 9 years old. So while he's out, um, they kind of build up Genghis, and his mother's trying to build all of her kids to being leaders in a sense, having some sense of empowerment, right? Genghis takes all the game she gives him, and he's out for blood. Like he's ready, right? But it's not until things get, and when I say he's out for blood, I don't mean it in the sense like he went raiding and villaging. He just was trying to get strong. He was trying to like present himself as a leader, right? So Genghis ends up getting married, and his wife, her name was Borte, and she ends up getting kidnapped by the Merkits, the same clan who Genghis's father stole his mother from, if my notes are correct. So full 360 moment. The Merkits snatch up Genghis, right? Vons, what's good, man? Yes, sir. We on Genghis, one of the greatest Khans. Before there was a Shaka Khan, there was a Genghis Khan. Before there was a Shah Khan, there was a Kublai Khan. And we tapping into both today. So, like I say, early age, I want to say at this point, Genghis is maybe, we're going to go with the age of 12 to 15, right? Somewhere in this range. Genghis Khan is married. His father's died at I want to say the age of 12. He's already killed a man. He killed his brother, essentially. Um, and he's having to grow in an unnatural, you know what I mean? Even for these times, I would say. Um, so when the Merkits steal his wife, Genghis knows that, he's not in a position to necessarily, like, by this point they were accepted into a new tribe. Genghis is showing that, or they were building their own small tribe of people, I guess. And Genghis is showing that he can be a leader, right? So when his wife is stolen, he goes to his father's blood brother, which is Togrul. And he says, hey, I need you to help me. And actually, we're going to back up to tell you why Togrul even entertains this, I would say. Much less than he was of relation and shit, right? When Genghis Khan gets married, his wife's family gifts him a really nice coat. And the first thing he does was take it to Togrul. And it was a way of saying, hey, I acknowledge your status. I appreciate you as a leader, but this is also a way of building an alliance and kind of paying forward a favor. You're gonna owe me for this, in a sense, right? So when Genghis Khan's wife gets stolen, he goes to Togrul and he says, hey, I need you to help me get my wife back. Return my honor to me. And Togrul takes it on. Togrul's like, hey, don't even worry. I got you. We're going to send 5,000 men. If I'm not mistaken, it was 5. At this point, like, that's the lowest number we going with from here on out. Genghis was sending 80,000 niggas at one point. You know what I'm saying? Like, Genghis was that dude. You know what I mean? But, all right. They ride out to the Merkits. They get his wife back, right? But here's where things get sticky. His wife had been, she was taken at their mercy. It said that she was raped repeatedly. She might have been beaten and such. And when she returned back to, Temujin's tribe and to his camp and such, she was pregnant. It's no telling whether or not the child was his. So there's no real timeline as to how long she was gone. But I'm estimating at least in the ballpark of a year for that to even be speculation, right? You would know that, hey, if I hit my chick, I mean, I don't know. They might not have had the 9 months down to a science back then. You know what I mean? But again, we carry on. So that's his first real battle. That's his first real chance to prove, like, all right, not only can I get the job done as far as like what my vision is set for, right? But also, this was a trial. My father's my father's enemies, my mother's ex tribe, you know what I mean? And are now my enemies. The sins of my father fall upon me, right? But he handled that shit. So after that, I want to say let's say 17. He's still young, very young. Maybe even early 20s. He aligns with one of his childhood friends by the name of Jamuka. And it said it said that him and Jamuka got click tight. You know what I'm saying? Like on some yeah, they loved each other the long way. They were sleeping together. I'm not saying sexually, but they was laid up together at night, and they were so close to the point that it caused a lot of speculation, a lot of jealousy, and envy from his wife, right? So the wife and Genghis Khan's mother both set out to like try and ruin the relationship essentially. All right. So the goal for them was to separate the two. Now, in doing so, I don't know, there's no telling whether or not it worked, right? Genghis could have had his own vision, and that could have played a factor, right? But what ends up happening is, let's say, they're traveling on a path, um, as this is going on. You know what I mean? They were nomadic people in a sense, moving, migrating, building, and growing all throughout the steppe, and taking on different tribes to take on new land, more wives, etc., right? So as they're traveling, they come to an impasse to where they have a difference of opinions. Jamuka decides to plant himself. He says, hey, I want to go upon this hill. I want to rest for a minute. I want you to come and join me. We'll relax, and then we can continue on the journey. Genghis Khan completely ignores it, and he keeps marching, right? As he keeps marching, he notices that a lot of Jamuka's camp is now marching with him. They decided to move behind him because not only did there was coercion, there was admiration in the sense he was a great leader. They were seeing a difference. I think one of the difference between Jamuka and Temujin was, and Temujin again is Genghis Khan before he becomes Genghis. Now, Jamuka was the old aristocratic vision of the Mongolian people, holding all the values true. And Temujin kind of introduced a new form to where it was based on merit. What do you do? Your status is in direct correlation to what you can provide to me, essentially, to the tribe, to everything. And there were a lot of small things that Genghis was putting in place that were great, moral value things. Like he stopped kidnapping women and children or something like that. It was something along the sense of when they raided, they weren't killing women. You know what I mean? Women and kids kind of thing. So the way that Genghis was changing the Mongolian people it was new, and a lot of them were adapting to it, right? Very, very quickly. So as they split, they essentially become enemies, you know what I mean? And now they're in war. And how the war starts was, from what I gathered, it was more or less an argument between two members of their clans. And once they started fighting, both sides kind of took it as a sign that, hey, we gotta step up, we gotta do something, right? Now, as this is going, like, keep in mind, they are friends, right? They were. And Genghis really valued people. I think that was one of his like family traits, honestly. We'll see that later in Kublai. But he had an envoy of, I forget, they weren't messengers, but essentially they were of royal status, essentially, and they were traveling, right? They were traveling to broker a deal in another tribe or whatever, right? Um, Jamuka catches him. He takes him back to the camp and he boils him alive. And Temujin is like, yo, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, that's it. So he chilled for a second. He takes to himself and he's like, all right, we gonna ride. Now, when he's battling Jamuka, shows no mercy. Ends them niggas no time, essentially, right? Like the battle, I'm not gonna say the battle becomes a footnote, but what I will say is they were easily overpowered and Jamuka flees, right? Jamuka gets away. He eventually takes refuge in another tribe. That tribe gives Jamuka up to Temujin. When they did that, you would think, right? You would think, hey, here goes my offering. I want to be good with you. I heard how y'all been pillaging other tribes. I've heard about your stories. You that nigga, bruh. I'ma give you Jamuka so that all of my people are good, right? Temujin couldn't believe the disrespect towards Jamuka. He has every one of them executed. Everyone that turned Jamuka in and turned on him, essentially, he kills him. He's like, yo, the disloyalty. Why would I want y'all on my, you know what I'm saying? Why would I want y'all to join me? Now, Genghis has the opportunity to kill Jamuka himself, and he decides to offer him, a pardon, essentially. He's like, hey, I'll give you grace. You can, like, at this point, we can let bygones be bygones. Let's put it like that, right? Genghis does not want to kill Jamuka. I think it's very, very clearly displayed. He's reminiscing on the friendship and such, right? Jamuka says, no, kill me. I don't give a fuck about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did everything I did and I stood on it. You need to kill me. Genghis Khan still essentially couldn't pull himself to it. So they suffocate him in a carpet, and Genghis Khan wasn't even there to watch it. He left, essentially. Now, after the battle between Jamuka, all the tribes, essentially the Mongolian tribes, essentially tell Temujin, we are going to honor you. And hold on, I got a quote for y'all. Let me tell y'all what he says, because to me, this is a great representation of how strong his leadership was, how powerful of a figure he must have been, not only in times of battle, but just peace, right? The Mongolian people, 1206. We will make you our leader, our great Khan. We will fling ourselves like lightning upon your foes. We shall give you the fairest girls from the enemy. If we disobey you, take our flocks and our wives and our children and throw our worthless heads upon the sand. For a united people to come together and feel that way about you, you know what I'm saying? Like I say, I think that speaks volumes to your leadership, essentially, right? Now, at this point, Genghis is like, he's starting to have this itch to where it's like, yo, I still, like, I want more. I want more. at some point before, like let's put a stamp in where we're at 1206. That's the year we're at, 1206. At some point before 1206, I want to say, like as Genghis Khan is still rising to become the unified leader, right? He helps the Qin dynasty in a small in some form of an affair, right? Like some form of a battle. And they were successful, you know what I mean? They had heard word of Temujin doing who knows what. Like the way they say that the Mongolian, like specifically Temujin's camp moved lightning fast. You know what I mean? Their horses, you know, they had several advantages from a war standpoint, um, that allowed them to be superior in several regards, no matter what advancements the China dynasty might have had, right? And at that time, like I say, we're in the Qin dynasty. So, um, between 1209 and 1215, he starts to set out and, you know, have these aspirations of, hey, I want to expand, I want to take on more. The idea that, like, when I think of Genghis Khan, the first thing that I think of is him wanting to conquer China. I always thought about it in the sense that that was like an initial thing. Hey, out the gate, I want China. You know what I mean? I want to be this massive leader. And I'm talking like early on, once he became, this is what these history lessons are for. We learn, right? But yeah, as I think about Genghis Khan before this, before my studies, it was always that, hey, once he became leader, it was an innate thought immediately that I want China. And as I've studied, I don't think it was that. I think it was more so, I don't want to say the constant battles, right? But he got a taste for blood so early in killing his half brother. And then throughout his rise, raiding tribes, a big war between the Merkits to get his wife back, a big war between essentially his best friend Jamuka and having to watch him die, right? I think there became this void that was unfilled. So as he sets out these bigger goals, he wants to take on the some more of the Chinese territory, right? He sends out an envoy of you know, regents and merchants. They got the royal pass. You know what I mean? You touch them, it's smoke. And the Qin dynasty, like it says here, the Shah Allah ad-Din Muhammad, the Shah Allah ad-Din Muhammad executed them. And Genghis took that personal. And Genghis, like I said it early on in the stream at the start of this, that we're gonna see that Genghis was a more of an emotional person. I think we saw that in how he rode for his wife, right? How quickly he moved to fight for his wife. It wasn't just that. To me, there are so many encounters that can show Genghis Khan, you know, visibly displayed his emotions. One, He gets married. He gets the gift of the coat. He goes straight to his uncle Toguro and gives it to him. And even if it wasn't his uncle, in this time there are conflicting stories. Uncle, it might have been his father's like really good friend, whatever. But we're gonna say uncle for the sake of it. So he goes to his uncle. He gives him this coat, and he says, hey, I respect you, but I also want to gain favor from you. You know what I mean? To me, that's a sign of appreciation, right? Emotion. Um, he rides for his wife. His wife becomes pregnant. And this time they kill kids like, hey, I hate to say it like this, but your baby come out funny. You know what I'm saying? They was off in that kid. So he didn't have necessarily a reason to keep a kid he didn't know was his, right? He did. Took care of him. And then the Jamuka situation, right? So with the envoy getting killed, he felt that was a slight towards him because they shouldn't have died, right? If it's war, let's let it be clear. But you didn't have to incite it like this. Like we could have sparked the war through words. You know what I'm saying? Nah, we ain't gonna accept that. Tell him it's smoke. Come back. Let us know when y'all want to line it up. You know what I mean? All right. So essentially, Genghis Khan, he one of his greatest like attributes was picking people, and he chose the right generals, right? So they essentially like they win more or less. At this time, like I say, we're probably around 12, 15, right? The Great Wall of China isn't worth a damn at this point. You know what I mean? Like you could go around it. Like it wasn't it wasn't that big yet, right? So they were knocking parts of it down. Like they were just trying shit, trying different methods to win this, different siege tactics against the Chinese empires. And essentially they take Beijing. And at the time, that was the capital in the Qin dynasty. Whoever leads, they be moving the capital anywhere they want and whatnot. So, now after that, really, Genghis Khan kind of gets bored with Beijing, and he travels back to the steppe region in Central Asia. And or I forget. Yeah, I think it's like Central Asia that they called it. And he essentially dies from he fell off of his horse. I want to say during I don't think it was a battle. I think he was out hunting or something like that. But oh, real quick, Davis, man, appreciate you tapping in. I meant to say that earlier, yeah. But yeah. So if you in here, go ahead and drop a like real quick. Like I say, we in here studying the great Khans, Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan. After Genghis Khan, we had Monkey, which was Tului's son. I believe Genghis's nephew. So, well, he's Genghis's grandson and Kublai's older brother. There we go. Now it's said that Monkey was, a pretty good leader. I don't have much on Monkey because for the sake of what I wanted to cover, which was China as we know, like how China grew to be such a huge region. And matter of fact, while we're at it, let me pull up. I'm gonna pull up a map so we can just look at Asia during this time. I hate you gotta go through all this to get to the big old pictures. All right. Now see, this doesn't really. I should have done. Matter of fact, I know what I should have done. We got to do map of China and Mongolia. 1200s. All right, this one looks like it might be good. Come on and get it. Here we go. All right. So the story of Temujin starts here in the Mongol. Fights with the Merkits. His wife stolen by the Tartars. Or no. His father was killed by the Tartars. Genghis Khan actually had a major battle with the Tartars as well. But essentially, the Mongol Empire ends up to encompass all of this here. And like I say, like we're for one, we're starting here, right? By the time he says, hey, I want more land, I want more conquest, he's looking here at the I don't know, the Chia kingdom. Chia. So I do know Genghis Khan essentially makes his way through here, ends up taking Beijing. He grows bored and travels back to steppe. Now, like I say, his grandson Monkey becomes, and I think it's like Monkey, like not monkey, but I don't know how to pronounce it. He's in leadership, and he's assigned to. As he's leading, right? Kublai Khan, his younger brother, is assigned to northern China. Now, Kublai is learning at a young age almost everything, right? He's learning how to fight. That's the Mongol nature. He's learning, how to be a great. I don't want to call him an assassin, but that boy was out there nice with the. But he was also brilliant. He starts learning Chinese politics. He starts like I say, Monkey assigns him to govern northern China, and he gains the support of Chinese scholars and officials to soak up all the intelligence, the diplomacy, the cultural sensitivity. Like, he's a student of the game, right? In doing so, somewhere in this process, he starts to take on Buddhism. Like, I don't know what their religion was, but Kublai Khan is one of the main reasons Buddhism spread so wild in throughout China. Right. Now, Monkey is important because he was a good leader, but also because when he dies, it created a an opportunity, which causes for a civil war, which had already been brewing. Now, when Monkey was elected the Khan, or when the title was bestowed upon him, if I'm not mistaken, his other brother Arik Bok Arik Bok Arik Bok. It's like AR. It's different ways it's spelled. ARIQ ARIG BOKE. But those two were kind of already brewing more or less, as I believe Arik Bok had the aspiration to become Khan and was willing to do whatever it took to get there. In doing so, when Monkey dies, the civil war, like I say, happens. It's just between two different brothers, which end up being Kublai Khan and Arik Bok. Kublai wins the battle, but when he wins, not everyone immediately I don't want to say they don't accept it. It's just a bit of confusion because Arik Bok just went to the north and Kublai went to the south, if I'm not mistaken, and they kind of ruled like that for a small period of time. And then I believe that Arik Bok ends up surrendering. Like, they do have a battle, and Arik Bok surrenders, which it becomes widely acknowledged and accepted. Hey, this is a unified under Kublai Khan, right? So now, under Kublai's rule, like I say, he really starts to expand their region. And let's see what Kublai Khan's map looks like. Because Kublai Khan's one of the orators that I was watching put it like this. Kublai Khan's region stretched from Memphis, Tennessee to Hawaii. For those of us in the US. All right, let's see if we can get a decent picture. All right, well, it doesn't give us everything, but this is actually like insane, right? Let's do a comparison between See, this is Genghis Khan's contribution. And then you can see when it starts to stretch through Kublai Khan's contribution. Kublai Khan dies in Yeesh. We'll get there. I just know that he was 79 years old. And if I'm not mistaken, he had been ruling since his early 20s. So, Kublai Khan from the year, let me see, 1260-ish. So 23, all of this. This is through Monkey. Through about 1260. We get to Kublai. I mean, you can just see again how vast this region was. It wasn't easy though. So Kublai has his first battle between his brother. As recognized, the Great Khan, he then establishes the Yuan dynasty, and he's taking on China's culture, a lot more of it. And the Mongolian people don't really know what to expect. The Mongolian people are worried because they're not trying to lose their values, their traditions to Chinese traditions and values. Kublai Khan was the first non-Han emperor to rule all of China. And he established the capital in Beijing. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Kublai moved it to Xanadu. I don't have that part written down. Let's start to bring in some notable figures. We'll start with he brought in a lot of scholars, a lot of just intellectuals that would help to expand his thinking. He studied Confucianism, or however you say that word. There was something else. But I say it to say he was more open and accepting to different cultures. I mean, different religions, different beliefs. As we know how we know how China is today, because after Kublai, the dynasty breaks down and it goes back to traditional Chinese rule. I forget what the family that takes takes back control, but anywho, I digress. He brings in, another notable figure is Rabban Bar Shama, who's a Nestorian Christian monk and diplomatic envoy. And then, of course, we've got Marco Polo. Now, my ignorance before actually studying into this, I always thought Marco Polo was cool with Genghis, not Kublai. I thought the whole show, it's been years since I've seen it, but I thought that the show Marco Polo on Netflix was centered around Genghis Khan and Marco Polo, not Kublai Khan, the grandson. Obi-Wan. Marco Polo spent 17 years with Kublai. And if you haven't seen the show, definitely go check it out on Netflix. Marco Polo, amazing show. Under Kublai Khan's, you know, golden age, some of the cultural achievements were flourishing trade along the Silk Road. Genghis Khan helped to expand the Silk Road. One of his biggest things, one of his biggest attributes was kind of protecting merchants on and along the Silk Road, making it a safer place to actually do business. Under Kublai, there was an explosion of art, theater, mathematics, cartography, multicultural capital with Persians, Arabs, Chinese, Tibetans, and Europeans. The infrastructure now. Kublai established the mail system. He established shipping, if I'm not mistaken. They used paper currency. They had new laws and tax systems. He expanded the canals. So Kublai not only expanded the Mongolian Empire, but he did it in a way that China we know today is partly due to Mongol tradition, Mongol leadership. And it starts, in my opinion, with Genghis, of course. I think that early on in the Chinese Empire, though it was small, it was somewhat impenetrable. Slam Rich was good. And that's how they wanted it to see, right? To seem, right? But like I said, it wasn't easy for Kublai to expand. I found it very interesting that in Kublai's leadership, like I said, he dies at 79, and he takes leadership early 20s. He took on several from I forget. I believe it's the Mamluks of Egypt. The Vietnamese, the Japanese. He had, like, you can see through this map. That's kind of why I've left it up, just to see how the space has grown. Yeah, the horde from the steppes. Yep. Over time, but Kublai lost wars as well. Like, he lost battles. He sent his son to Vietnam, and essentially they won early on. They took Vietnam for a very brief period, because as the soldiers were retreating, they essentially were reassessing their plan. They set up several. I didn't want to add too much into this. I wanted this to be able to kind of touch on both parties and be concise, but Kublai's son was ambushed several times just trying to make it out of Vietnam after having taken it for, let's just say, a year or two, right? They tried to take Japan twice in 74, 1274 and 1285, was it? 12. Hold on one second. I mean, long story short, they lost. One of the reasons I'll say that they couldn't take Japan was the weather. They had a tsunami kamikaze that completely wiped it out. Like that stopped everything, right? So it wasn't easy to make the expansion, but you can see again just how big the region grew over the few years between. Like this is less than a century, and it goes from the small step to all of this continent almost. They had Mesopotamia, which was, Greek ruled at one point. That like look at all of this land. I wish we had present day a present day map as well that I could show. Let me see. Um, let me see if it'll show me what these translate to. Okay, so Baghdad, um, Hangzhou, which is, I mean, we know that as China today. Um, yeah, I'm trying to see what all, because it looked like they had parts of Russia. You know what I'm saying? Jaka said crazy they didn't go more into Europe and Africa. I know that Genghis had early aspirations of wanting to, meeting travelers and such. It was a point of curiosity to make it to Europe. I think that, like you say, it is crazy because if anyone, I would have thought that Kublai would have had the aspiration to expand into Europe at least. I don't know that he would have cared for Africa. That might be an ignorant statement, but but yeah, I mean, again, after Kublai dies, essentially the dynasty fractures. It does break down, and let me see who ends up taking it. Let me see. It was Zhu Yuanzhang who became the Hongwu emperor and founded the Ming dynasty and took back the empire from the Mongols in 1368. So just shy of a century later, um, the Chinese were able to kind of reestablish their traditional rule. And if I'm not mistaken, Zhu Yongzong, I believe he was of some sort of royal descent, like connecting to one of the original emperors of China. But again, these are just the crumbs, the tidbits. You know what I'm saying? I'm throwing that little salt out there so y'all can season the rest. You know what I mean? Get your Googles out, get your YouTubes out. Go study up and learn a little bit about the great Genghis Khan and the great Kublai Khan, because there is a lot more that I wasn't able to get into this one. Some of the wars, and one thing that I do think we're gonna do eventually is talk about some failed excursions from some of the great leaders that we cover. Just kind of going back to Napoleon. Napoleon is a very interesting story. The Haitian Revolution is one that we did cover, but we didn't talk about it from the stance of the loss and what it did, mentally, more or less, to the general. But those are the kind of things that we will be touching on throughout these history lessons. My goal, again, is always just to give y'all something new, something different, that we all can, find a little bit of interest in, pick up where I left off. This is just to kind of throw a spark at you and give you reason to go and study a little more. But if y'all have any suggestions, shoot them to me. Send them to me on IG or Twitter, whatever. Yeah. And if you haven't already, man, go ahead and hit the like down at the bottom. Tap into the podcast, man. Sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/REO podcast. We've been dropping so much content. It's hard to keep up. And this week we took a break from dropping a regular, a main episode. So take this time to kind of catch up on some of the previous episodes, some of the live streams, some of the bonus content, because Amp, Banks, Eric, they've been putting in work, going crazy just as well. And there's a ton on there for everybody. But yeah, call us up, 424-260-RAOP. Leave us a message. Let us know what your shit. Let me know what y'all want to hear next week. You know what I mean? If not, I'll be putting together another amazing episode for y'all. I appreciate everybody tapping in and shit. Until next time.